One of the biggest lessons about allowing and about faith and being in the flow with God's will and trusting. So our animal hospital was bought by a corporation, and I already worked there for about 10 years when they bought our hospital. And the corporation that ended up buying the emergency clinic, I thought was a good choice. You know, they had a really good name in the veterinary community, and I was actually really excited that the board that used to run our clinic chose, to essentially sell to them. The boarding team that they sent in, one of the people from that team was a clinical manager, a previous clinical manager that ended up being a part of the onboarding team, part of the administrative team. But her and I really bonded. I really liked her. They were super supportive. And then Suzanne, who at the time was the higher up leadership vice president of clinical services, what she became eventually. But at that time, she was acting as the interim manager for our clinic. I really like Suzanne. I enjoy people that cut it to me straight. There were so many bad choices here. It's this, when you mess with people that you don't know anything about, or that you don't allow your ego to move out of the way. And you're wow, I'm basing my opinion off of gossip from likely a narcissist. Suzanne became my mentor. And then when it was time for them to start putting the administrative positions in, so they opened the position for the clinical manager, which would have been the boss over the department. I applied, went through the whole process, had to go through a bunch of interviews. Well, they ended up hiring an outsider that hadn't worked there before. So naturally, it was a little bit yeah, of course I was disappointed. Who's not going to be disappointed? I'd already worked there for 10 years. Natural. The sort of culture, because the nurses and the technicians in a small animal hospital, we were small at one point, they are a part of building that structure. So I did what I usually do. I prayed. And I thought about it. I think I even went and interviewed at a couple different places outside of the clinical aspect of medicine. And I thought about it for a couple weeks. And then, Suzanne, who's my mentor, she asked if she could talk to me about it. And I was like, of course, And she gave me really great feedback. And see, that's the thing. When you're open to receiving feedback and you can step outside of your ego and essentially humble yourself, and you are actually making those connections. And I'm not talking about connections in terms of a person, although, that's good too. That's networking. That's different from a connection. When you're open to that bridge of receiving coaching, leadership, feedback, whatever you want to call it. Suzanne was really great with her feedback. She was very specific. And again, I really appreciate this. Heard a quote with me from Brene Brown that clear is kind. And that has always stuck with me because that just totally resonated. Most people don't like hearing the truth, and they want to be comfortable. They really want to be coddled. They want you to meet them where they're at. And sometimes that's appropriate. But in terms of leadership, in terms of aligning you to a culture that belongs ultimately to the corporation that just bought the company, a lot of people have a really hard time with this as well. They try to make it fit and it doesn't fit. And so she gave me great feedback, and I made the choice to stay. But I also made the choice to get behind the person that they hired and to support her. Because some of the feedback that Suzanne gave me was the acknowledgement of my influence, the acknowledgement of my knowledge and my experience. She didn't take any of that away from me. So she was giving me that healthy validation and then making it clear to me what the expectation would be, that there was still an opportunity, and this is just one role, and to continue pursuing being a leader anyways. And it made sense because it had already come natural to me anyways. She just wanted me to have that observation piece and be able to really take in what the role was going to mean for me. Also made a concerted effort to let her know, this manager that they hired, that I was behind her. I wanted to be able to support her, and I knew that it was probably pretty intimidating coming into that environment. You know, people that had worked together for over a decade, a lot of them. And, you know, just, it's the same as with human nurses, veterinary nurses, you know, it's like they have a very structured sort of environment, you know. It's like the pH is like, it's a fine line, okay, between like functioning and like, this is toxic hell. So she was really grateful for that, and I was really grateful for the fact that she was open to that. And so that created a more solid bridge with my relationship with her. And because I did that, she would make an effort to teach me things and invite me in on conversations and ask my opinion. So ultimately still having an input direction of the hospital. Set the precedent for my team too. Especially when you've worked alongside people, you know, on sort of the same playing field for a long time, you know, for them to see that it's almost like a tiny little separation. Like I'm eventually going to take a leadership role, administrative role. Like I'm taking this seriously. So I want to say maybe 9 or 10 months later, I got called into the office. And Suzanne and the hospital director and the interim medical director and the HR director, like it was like 5 people in there. Okay. And I was like, oh no. I was like, what's up? They told me that this person had put in her resignation and they wanted to see if I was still open to taking the position. And I said yes. I still had to go through all the interviews again. I had to go through like 5 interviews. And then I was promoted to the clinical manager of the emergency department, and then subsequently built from the ground up the nursing department myself with the other clinical supervisors. There's so much learning in that whole experience. It's a part of acceptance and being open to receiving and humility and trusting the timing of things, even if you don't understand it. And that is not necessarily God testing your faith. That's God strengthening your faith and strengthening your belief in yourself and what you can accomplish. Years later, when I was being terminated, that really helped with my acceptance of the whole situation. You know, granted, I was still some things that I had to work through. It took me a little bit just to grieve. You know, I worked there for 15 years, so that was my identity, and it was a big adjustment for me. But because of my self-awareness and because just being honest with myself that it was time for me to move on, to take my life in a different direction, and ultimately, again, my faith in God, knowing that I had been praying for an answer to this, that I had been feeling burned out and I had lost, you know, some passion for the work, and my relationships with people were a little bit turbulent there, and that God was giving me this opportunity that I had essentially prayed for, that it was a blessing. And it was all about my perception. So many people overlook their own blessings because they want to control what their blessings look like. Or, most importantly, they fear it. They fear it. This is why faith is so important. And you cannot have faith and fear within you. It's just not even a thing. If you have fear, then you don't have faith. There's no halfway, little bit of faith. I have a little bit of faith. There's no blind faith. There's no, leap of faith. It's just you walk in faith. And I recognize there's a learning curve around that. I was with God my whole life and being trained in this way because it's part of my purpose to teach it, which is also why there's nobody else that can copy me or be me. My spiritual gifts, my anointing, my destiny, my intimacy and relationship with the Most High God is a co-creation. It is a lived experience. You will never copy me. You would have to live my whole life for me. And so anybody who talks about destiny and destiny swapping and like all this magical bullshit, some legitimacy to certain things. Most of these things are an opportunity for people to spiritually bypass and, more importantly, to control and mask their fear. Like tarot cards, sacred geometry, rituals, spell work, all of those things. There is legitimacy, even astrology. They have a benefit. Like they're a part of culture, all of those things. And so you can learn from certain things and you can grow even depending on the intention, and that's your intention. And see, most of the time, because people use things like divination, astrology, sacred geometry, actually doing is, one, you're not learning the lessons that are necessary for you to be in your purpose and your destiny. See, this is why, and again, I keep repeating this because I really feel like this needs to sink in. I know it's a huge culture shock and it's a big, no, it's not true, but it is. You can never take another person's destiny. Your perception of another person's destiny is not truth. Nobody knows another person's destiny, and there's only one person that can change or alter your destiny, and that's you. That's you. Everybody's destiny is going to be different. It's going to be unique to you. And that's the great thing about actually doing the work. That's the great thing about humility and gratitude and self-awareness. Because whatever is for you would be better than anything you would try to take from another person, because it's for you. You built it from your journey. It's a co-creation, a reflection of your spirit. Self-actualize and things start, manifesting all that, what all of you sick freaking weirdos judged and then tried to steal from me. Like, that is a reflection of the work that I put in. You have the highest form of disgusting audacity. Disgusting. And I don't give a shit what role anybody sits in. I don't care who your daddy is, who your mommy is. Mine is God. Okay? And whether you choose to see it or not, whether you choose to humble yourself or not, God sees everything. Okay? So not only does God see you trying to steal from me, copy me, be me, blasphemy, like all of that, all of the disgusting and profound amount of spiritual law that you continue to break. You literally continue to break it to this day. Like, you're sitting there trying to plot and plan when you haven't even cleared your debt. Your debt is already at max capacity. No, if you feel like I'm telling you this for my health, I'm not. I'm literally trying to help you save your own life. You are actively saying, I'm rejecting my own destiny. I am turning away from my purpose in this world because I am more determined to take this person, take anything from this person. I am more interested into controlling another person than I am to controlling myself. People miss this. And what ends up happening is that while you're busy trying to control another person, you haven't done any of the work back here. And so then you can just fall back into that and feel like a victim, feel like God is punishing you, feel like you're left out. And it's like, well, no, you stepped out. You stepped out. You came over here trying to bulldoze my life and didn't focus on yourself, didn't focus on your destiny. So that is you sacrificing your destiny. And anybody who joins forces with this little cult, this little group of not powerful, not magical, not spiritual, not religious people, none of you are, you can't be. You could never be trying to take the life of another human being, traumatizing their children, stealing their money, stealing their property, trying to copy their essence, doing rituals, doing sacrifices, and say that you are anything divine or of God or have any spiritual connection. Okay? That's bullshit. Sorry. You wouldn't have to use a hacker. Okay? You wouldn't have to do fraud. You wouldn't have to hire gang stalkers. Okay? You wouldn't have to use coding in your, like, weirdo, because this is your only skill. That's on you. That has nothing to do with me. None of you have anything to do with me. If you did, you wouldn't have to commit fraud, right? Because I would have come into agreement with the energy. But I didn't. I never did. We were never in a marriage. We were never in a relationship. You never supported me. You never managed me. You didn't build anything with me. So, like, what would ever make you feel entitled to anything that belongs to me? But furthermore, what would qualify you? What would qualify you? You don't care about the qualifications. That's the level of audacity, selfishness, and ego. Why would anybody work with anybody who behaves like that? That's not destiny. You can't take anything from me. You can't. You can't curse me, you can't hex me, you can't put a spell on me. None of that bullshit. It's why I am who I am. It's why I'm not in a legal binding agreement. It's why I put boundaries down a long time ago. Right? It's like you're making the choice not to look at it, and it doesn't mean it goes away. Okay, and while you're doing that, you're sacrificing your own destiny and potentially going to have to deal with whatever return of energy you continue to try to send out at me. That's dumb. That's dumb. Don't do that. That's stupid. You have no idea what is for you. And you're really not supposed to. Because if God is trying to strengthen your faith and grow you, strengthen your discernment, strengthen your boundaries, have you understand your spirit, those are like prerequisites to your actual destiny. Like, you have to go through those things so that when you are on your path, when you are in your purpose, you can be elevated. You don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to sit there and stress. You don't have to worry about your criminal record. You don't have to worry about, am I going to show up at court and end up in jail because I'm lying and they already have the information they need and they think that I'm going to get away with it, Instead of just taking accountability and telling the truth and accepting the consequences. And again, because you don't even know what the consequences could be. You don't even know what's going to even come of that. You're actively co-creating your own destiny. And you're actively co-creating your own karma. That's why it's like, I'm not worried because I never came into agreement with the energy. I won't come into agreement with the energy. And I know that you can't manipulate me. I know you can't lie to me. And I know that none of you will be able to even get close to me until I am made whole. You're so ego-driven, audastic, and like literally have this like these monster god complexes. Like, I mean, it's really historical, like nothing I've ever seen or felt or known before. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, there has to be like crack involved here in some capacity. Like, I feel like there's like, or that toad stuff that y'all smoke. It's like, I don't know how anybody would ever think that like you could put this, like, come anywhere near me with this bullshit, or any dumb hoe. Like, literally, you gotta be one dumb bitch. You gotta be one dumb bitch. Like, you really do. And I mean, you obviously are, because you can't even show your face. You can't even take accountability. That's why you have to keep playing the victim to everybody around you. That's why you keep panicking and trying to guilt people into your bullshit. But your literal only hope is that people starve you out of that, because you're just feeding off of their energy too. And what's outside of that cycle for you, that is where faith comes in. And it won't have anything to do with another person. Obviously, you have to make me whole. You're not getting away with this. And if you don't know now, you will soon. That's natural. That's like universal law. It just decided that consequence even. It's like, that's where you start going back into the positive. If you were looking at it in terms of a bank account, you have to start going in the right direction. But if you have a fear of failing, if you have a fear of other people's judgment, if you have a fear of whatever anybody is going to say to you, or whatever, like anybody, even me in this case, as it applies to you, like, I wouldn't even be talking about this shit anymore if y'all would just move along, move around, return my shit, return my son, and like accept the consequences for which are yours. Because you did this. I had nothing to do with it. Like, you made every choice that you made here, and like, that's not my problem. I literally have been ministering to all of you for a very long time while you were stealing my content, actually, which is even more sick. Like, that is why your karma is likely epic right now. I don't need to see people's karma. It's like, I understand God. I know what happens. So that's a choice. And my faith, it's like, you'll never break my faith. It's dumb to think that you even would. Like, that's also a part of my destiny. So by you trying to break mine, but then thinking you're going to steal something from me, a pathological liar trying to take something from a truth teller, somebody who has more faith in God than in human beings, but you're literally over there trying to live for other people, afraid of the judgment of other people, putting on a performance for other people, not in your destiny. Your destiny's over there, and you're not paying any attention to it at all. You're not learning anything about yourself. You're not growing. You're not accepting lessons. That's also your problem and not mine, because you're trying to control other people. You're trying to contain and control. It's not something that's within your control. It's like trying to control really a hurricane. I know that there are people that have the audacity to believe they can control all of the weather all the time, and that's not the case either. Can't do that. Natural disasters are going to happen. You're not God. You're not God. Let's just say one random person from this whole group would have chosen, like 6 months ago, just to have the balls, or whatever, if they don't have balls, to just come tell me what's going on. Let's say one person was like, hey, this is what's up. You should know about this. Okay, I want to help you get out of this. Let's say that I have a $1 billion idea that I know I'm not going to use because it's not for me. It's part of being a key holder, like an actual key holder, not a faker, like these liars. Because you can see these people are gatekeepers, they're control freaks. You think they're gonna just unconditionally be like, oh, you should do this. Here you go. Like, this is gonna make you money if you do it. You don't have to. You can chuck it in the fucking bucket if you want. I have no attachment to it. That's why I'm giving it to you. Just to bless you with this. And you could say this is hypothetical, but considering how much all you freaks have stolen from me, considering the fact that, like, you're trying to impersonate me, considering the fact that you have stupid, dumb whores, okay, and that's what they are. You are a dumb whore. If you don't want me to call you a dumb whore, you can take accountability for what you did and why you put your ugly mug next to my name on social media. Why you put your filtered flat ass next to my name on social media. If you want to do that, then I'll stop calling you dumb whore. But until then, that's who you are. I have no idea. It's like you have this preconceived notion of your will, but you're missing other things that could be for you because you believe that your will is for you. So let's say you lean into some kind of tool like black magic, selling your soul, like weirdo sacrifice, Santeria, whatever. And by the way, doing any of that shit on me is dumb, okay? If somebody is sainted in heaven and you're trying to do Santeria on someone, you're dumb. That's the time that a practitioner could actually get hit when you try something like that, because that, even though there's an exchange, okay? So the practitioner typically would feel like, oh, okay, well, there was an exchange. I did my part. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Because there's practices that they're supposed to do. And sending dark magic, trying to use deities, trying to summon a djinn towards someone who has spiritual rank like me could potentially take out a practitioner because they're not using their gifts wisely. It all depends on what their ranking is. You see what I'm saying? It all depends on what their karma is. It all depends on whatever. It's for them. It's not for me. But I do understand the hierarchy spiritually because of my ranking. I don't go around flexing that. I don't have to. It's also part of my purpose, is to allow people to try to fuck with me so they can learn. But that's your choice. Lesson or blessing. I tell people this all the time. It's like you could have already had like $1 trillion idea that was like hand designed for you. That like you wouldn't be facing criminal charges. You wouldn't have drag, you're not facing like being exposed, like all of that. It's all because you're trying to invade the space of another sovereign human being who has no binding to any of you to try to take something from. I don't give a shit if there's like a hedge fund investor, if that's D, or like if you all like try to work out a scheme, like literally fuck you. I don't care who you are. Literally, if you had any power, if you had any business sense, or if you had any integrity to be doing what you're doing even, you would have put a kibosh on this shit a long time ago. You're not a leader. Leaders don't move like this. It's into your own insecurities because you cling to your own belief of something instead of just like living your life. Just live your life. You are wrecking your own outcomes because you're trying to control the outcomes. It's so interesting to me. And then it's like these are the people that feel like, one, everybody's always trying to control them or tell them how they feel or is judging them. But it's like ultimately, no, that's you judging yourself. And that's you not in control of yourself. That's you trying to control everything and everyone around you. And ultimately, like wrecking your own outcomes instead of just being present and actually living life. And in terms of spiritually bypassing, using spiritual tools, black magic, spell work, like anything like that, even frequencies, sacred geometry, astrology, all of that, it all has a place, and you can learn about those things if you're using it to learn about yourself. Learn about yourself. The problem is that you have people that are ignorant like this, and they try to impose it onto other people, and you cannot do that. If you ever go for a reading and they are telling you specifically, now obviously collective readings on a social platform are a little different, but even then, if somebody's not on your frequency, that reading doesn't apply to you. Just because it triggers you doesn't mean it doesn't apply to you. But if you're looking at it from a perspective of learning about yourself, understanding different energies, like let's take, for example, and you can do this with anything. Sometimes people just need that structure to better understand. Like, the king or queen of pentacles. What does that mean for a feminine and her pentacles? What does that mean for a masculine and his pentacles? To be showing up in the energy as that person. Same thing with the king or king of cups. What does that mean for you individually? As a person, as a spirit, showing up in the energy. How does mastering all of those make you an emperor or an empress, right? And again, you can use any tool. Same thing with, plant medicine or rituals, whatever it is. Some people say prayer is ritual, and in a way it really is. There's a lot of things in the Catholic Church that are rituals. That's why it's such a slippery slope into basically paganism or dark magic, black magic. Most of it is. But also, that's why a lot of those people aren't healthy and they don't truly have any faith. And they end up spiraling out of control with their egos. It's really just the truth. It has you in a space of projecting onto other people and not actually knowing other people. It has you not creating true loyalty, true commitments, clear connections with anyone, not ever feeling bonded to anyone truly, because you're not in control of yourself and you're not doing the work on yourself. So your whole entire alignment is not reflective of what you want reflecting back to you. Trying to control other people's reality, and then wondering why yours keeps ending up fucked up.